Hello and welcome to this channel. Myself, Dr. Papu Dhibor, Assistant Professor in the Department of Chemistry of Brunei University. So, we are going to discuss about international agreements on environment or environmental issues. So, let's go into the topic. So, the first question is, why do we need environmental agreement on international level? Okay, so this is, you see, there have been lot of efforts have been made for achieving rapid industrialization, modernization, and urbanization. However, those trying to achieve those industrialization or modernization, we have faced with some environmental problems. And what are those problems? Some of the problems are very major problems, and they create problems in our daily lives even. And those problems are global warming, deterioration of ozone layer, different types of pollution like air, water, land pollution, industrial pollution, ocean pollution, etc. As well as, you see, deforestation is another problem for urbanization or increasing due to increasing population. So these are the type of problems that we get. So, and another problem regarding this one is that these issues, the problems that are that we are having, like depletion of ozone layer or global warming, these type of problems are not local. They are not rigid towards a certain region or certain country. If ozone layer is depleted, all of the world or all of the people in the world will be affected. So that is why these problems are not national, not local. So they are global problems. So that is why they need to be solved globally. And acting alone as a country or as a locality will not help. That is why these type of challenges to solve this type of problem will have to come together. And somehow the positive news is all the countries have acknowledged this problem, this fact that yes, we need to do this together. So that is why we need environmental agreements, so we can work collectively. Okay, so next, so what are the international agreements that we have? We have different types of environmental agreements different between lots of different countries, and those are Earth Summit, UNFCCC, Montreal Protocol, Kyoto Protocol, Convention on Biological Diversity, so, and Ramsar Convention sites, etc. So in this coursework or in this lecture, we have only three of them as our um, as in your syllabus. So we are going to discuss only about these three: Montreal Protocol, Kyoto Protocol, and Convention on Biological Diversity. So let's go one by one. Montreal Protocol. So the Montreal Protocol is based on the topic of ozone layer depletion. So ozone layer depletion was happening mostly because of CFC, chlorofluorocarbons. So the Montreal Protocol was a idea, so that it was an idea where we will be using this protocol, that we want to stop this depletion of the ozone layer. How are we going to achieve it? It is by phasing out the substances that are responsible for the depletion. And in this protocol, the protocol has been nearly signed by 200 signatories, like 200 countries. So uh, it was signed in Montreal in Canada in September 16, 1987, and it was effective from January 1, 1989. So, what was the approach to solve this issue? The approach was to reduce and, as I said, the phasing out of the production and consumption of ozone depleting substance (ODS), and we'll follow a very specific stepwise schedule for that. What are those? Production control, consumption control, and trade, import, export, re-import control, adoption of ozone friendly technology. These are the four approaches that we are going to follow, that were about to be followed after the Montreal Protocol. Then The initial agreement was that the reduction of those CFC, that is chlorofluorocarbons, and halogens has to be by 80%. That is, what if we consider that by 1986 it was 100%, by 1994 it would be 80% of that 100%. That is, it will be 80% by 1994, and it will be half, like whatever amount of chlorofluorocarbon and halogens are present in ozone layer should be depleted, or sorry, should be decreased by 50% by 1999. Okay, so, and what were the further amendments? These were after 99. The next amendments came that we will be completely phasing out the chlorofluorocarbons and halogens, as well as we will be stopping the manufacture of carbon tetrachloride, methyl chloroform, hydrofluorocarbons, hydrobromofluorocarbons, methyl bromide, etc. Okay, so next is, you see, after the Montreal Protocol was working and is working. As you can see, if there was no protocol, the concentration of these halogens, hydrochlorofluorocarbons, CCl4, carbon tetrachloride, methyl bromide, methyl chloride, CFC, methyl chloroform, these type of compounds would have gone exponentially. However, after Montreal Protocol was signed, as you can see, these values are decreasing in the atmosphere. So it is a clear and evident sign that it is the Montreal Protocol is working. Then, as you can see, the next one is Kyoto Protocol. So the first problem was the first problem was identified and executed as ozone layer depletion. The second problem was identified, was greenhouse gas. So what does a greenhouse gas do? The greenhouse gas, what it does is it increases the temperature. How does it increase the temperature? The greenhouse gases increase the temperature by absorbing energy. Which energy? The energy, light energy, that is coming from the sun. Okay, so the light energy that is coming from the sun is absorbed by these greenhouse gases, and that is why they increase the temperature of the earth. So what happens if we increase the amount of greenhouse gas in our earth's atmosphere? If the greenhouse gas increases in earth's atmosphere, it increases the energy, or rather, sorry, the temperature of the earth. So if it increases the temperature of the earth, this phenomenon generally is termed as global warming. So this was very important issue, because if the temperature of the earth increases, it affects everything. Literally every life on earth is affected by it. So that is why an international treaty was signed, which actually, that is the Kyoto Protocol. It was actually an extension of 1992 United Nations framework, that is UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. So, and it was signed on Kyoto in Japan on December 11, 1997, and it was made effective from February 16th and 2005. But it wasn't as easy to implement as the Montreal Protocol. So, if we see, the objectives were simple. That is to reduce the global warming by reducing the greenhouse gas. However, the problem with the greenhouse gas is the major greenhouse gases are, as you can see, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, hydrofluorocarbons, perfluorocarbons, and sulfur hexafluoride. The major greenhouse gas among these are carbon dioxide, as you can understand, and methane. Carbon dioxide for obvious reasons, and for obvious reasons means I meant to say that we are always, every animal or plants on earth are exhaling carbon dioxide, although plants do take carbon dioxide back. So if we consider any animal, they are taking oxygen and giving carbon dioxide to the environment, or atmosphere. and methane is produced by agriculture. A lot of methane is produced by agriculture. Okay, so these are the two major greenhouse gases that creates the problem. And also different types of car or different industrialization is always increasing the carbon dioxide. So that is why reducing the amount of carbon or carbon dioxide or methane into the atmosphere is very, very important. Okay, so that was one of the objectives. And then we'll also have to ensure that the food production is not threatened, because as I said, the agriculture is related to methane is related to agriculture. So if methane production is related to agriculture, we need agriculture for our food. So that is also one topic to understand. And then the economic development to proceed in a sustainable manner, that is to keep a balance between these and these. So decrease the greenhouse gas but not threaten the food production or different types of production in a sustainable manner. Okay, then the next is what happened in that protocol is a mixed result. Why? Because the headlines tells us that between 1990 and 2012, the original Kyoto Protocol parties reduced their CO2 emission by 12.5%. The original target was 4.7%. So as you can understand, it is very, very good result, as the result says. But however, the without Russia or Ukraine, that value of 4.7%, or rather 12.5%, the actual value that we got will be less than 4.7%, that is 2.7%. So Russia and Ukraine contributed to mostly to this 12.5%. And furthermore, another problem is that 42% of world CO2 emissions that arise from USA and China, these two countries, they did not sign up for the Kyoto Protocol. So they are continuously emitting those values. So that is the problem. Now, if we see the graph of whatever I have said in here, you'll see, or you will understand what I was trying to say. You see, in these are, that is, these all Kyoto parties with targets. Average target, if you see, by 2014 or 12, this value is minus 12.5%. Okay, but however, Russian Federation and Ukraine themselves only have more than 32% of the reduction emission of carbon dioxide. So as you can understand, most of the contribution of this 12.5% came from Russian Federation and Ukraine. Okay, uh, but if we omit this part, then the actual value by the remaining countries are minus 2.7%. So we are well below the agreed value of minus 4.7%. So that is a thing to consider. Then if we go into the next one, that is Convention of Biological Diversity. The Convention of Biological Diversity was drafted in 22nd of May 1992 in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Okay, and it came into effect from 29th of December 1993. Now, the main objectives of this CBD was conservation of biological diversity, sustainable use of its components, and fair and equitable sharing of, that is, the benefits that are arising from the genetic resources. And then the and then under the convention there are two protocols. These, to achieve these achievements or objectives or goals, we have two conventions. One is Cartagena Protocol, that is the biosafety protocol, that seeks to protect the biological diversity from potential risk of genetically modified organisms, different types of animals and all that, that is arising from the modern biotechnology. And as well as the Nagoya Protocol, that is access to genetic resources and in a fair and equitable manner to all of the countries involved. Okay, so that is the all, and thank you.